Okay, here is how I did it myself. This is functioning, though it has not been necessary yet. It is my freeze-proof, we'll see, watering system for the chickens. Now, most of y'all are familiar with these guys. You can see how often I like to fill it up. I think they're annoying because you got to take them down to fill them up, and that stinks in the wintertime. I haven't had any problems with this, however. 100 watts, keep the water warm. I have always had it hooked up to a thermostat because I don't like keeping the water at 40 degrees. I want it just above freezing, dang it. But during the summertime, I've got this guy who is connected to my rain barrel connected to the roof. That's working great during the summertime. I just turned it off, so we'll see. Everybody figures out how it works pretty quickly, and I like that I can fill it up. I can press the button and keep it full of water. It's good for the chicks. But it doesn't work for the wintertime. It freezes instantly. So what I have here is PVC pipe, standard half-inch, with these different type of chicken waterers. You can see they basically tap the button, tap it, nudge it, and water comes out. There's a little area for them to lick it off of. I haven't seen them use that yet, but they haven't needed to. And the idea is water will run through that pipe. Water will stay warm, and that will keep these warm, and it will keep anything from freezing on that. And the water is circulating to avoid any cold spots. And as long as it stays circulating and it stays warm, they should have water, right? You can't do that with this. Circulating past this because I don't have any doubt, sureness that it won't get stuck on. I can't heat the bowl right there, right? So these guys were more appealing to me because it seems like I can keep the whole thing warm. And we'll see if that's true or not. So how did I do that? Let's check it out. All right, here is my rain barrel hooked up to my very huge gutter. It does an okay job of keeping itself filled when we have rain, but it is 55 gallons, and the chickens don't drink that much water. I mean, let's be real. I don't have enough of them to put a dent in this yet, so usually I have to drain it manually, just to keep the water fresh and stuff. But what I have done to said rain barrel, in addition to having this coming down, this is the connection to the old waterer, my warm weather waterer. Obviously not going to be freeze proof. Hard to protect all of that. But down in this barrel, and I don't know if I can show you. Let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. Alright, so coming down this tube right here is an aquarium pump, and on the left is a 300 watt aquarium heater. That's all cool. So the aquarium pump sends the water up through my perfectly sized hole, through the tubing, down into the coop, the run. You saw this in there. That's where it comes in. And this will be insulated during the wintertime. I can't insulate inside the chicken run because they'll just eat the insulation. So water comes through here. And then out the other end, it comes from here. And then runs back up and drains back down into the barrel. Now, we'll see how all the little tiny splashes of water end up accumulating, giant ice castles or something. But for now, on my exhaust here, so this is the point where the water should be coldest, I have shoved a little temperature probe attached to this little guy who's off. That temperature probe is shoved, it probably comes to about here, and I think water stands in there. So I should be measuring at about the coldest part of the water. Sorry, this is the controller for the heater. Now let me show you. So there's a pump and there's a heater, and they operate separately. If I run the pump only when I need heat, then what will happen is this warm water in here will go through and hit the immediately hit the sensor and then shut it all off. So I have to keep the water circulating, if there's a risk of freezing. And the water heater should kick in only when this water is this is the coldest water, so 34 degrees. If this water is, say, 34, 35 degrees, kick it on. Now, what that means, I've got, some of this is temporary. So this is the overall temperature control. All my coop stuff is controlled by this one guy. We'll see if I burn it out or not. But I've been very happy. This is a Bayite thermostat thing that I've run for 3 seasons, I think. And it does heating and cooling. You can see heating, cooling. I'll try and put a link to this down in the description. But this is great because you can set a temperature you want it to be, and then you can set a heating delta above or below which it kicks on the heater. You can set a cooling delta above which it kicks on the cooling, and you can set a how far. What is it? You can set a third one that basically determines when it turns off. Like if you get within such and such, whatever. It just keeps it from cycling. So I have this set to 33.5 degrees. I'm not going to go over the heating delta settings. You might have a different one. The idea being that when this thing says, hey, it's cold outside, it's going to kick on the couple heaters that are in there. I have to actually check all my wattages and make sure I'm not exceeding that. But it will also send power onto this extension cord. These are all camera, whatever, ignore that. This extension cord, which will immediately power the pump. So the pump will start as soon as it's colder than 33.5 degrees out here. So the pump starts moving water through. As soon as this guy, through this temperature probe, detects that the water inside this system is at risk of freezing, it will kick this heater on, a little dangly heater in there. So in theory, nothing should freeze. Maybe I'm forgetting something. Now, obviously, cheap Chinese garbage, thing over there kind of has proved itself. So the risks with this system are that any of my one components fail, and my water tank's not going to freeze, but the tubing is going to freeze and crack and destroy itself, and whatever. One of my cheap little heaters or whatever's could short out and pop the breaker, and that takes all the heating out for the coop. So I need some kind of temperature sensor alarm or something to tell me if that has happened, and I might use a Raspberry Pi, but who knows. So the water heater itself is a aquarium heater, so it's like this big, and it didn't fit in here, so I cut a hole, and then I used this little piece of fiberglass and riveted on a little cover piece to cover up the hole that I drilled, so that it's still a tiny hole. Don't have to worry about mosquitoes. And this guy was easy. It was just a step drill bit, and then I put a little hole on the side for the cord. So far I've tested all this and it works, but maybe you want to see that. So I will simulate I'll just raise the set point here. SU means startup to me. That's probably not right, but I don't use the heating and cooling function. So we'll say I want it to be 70 degrees. My babies, they need it to be tropical because they're jungle birds. And heard it click. So we have water running, and this guy, so this is the temperature of the tank inside, 56 degrees. The heater doesn't go below 63 degrees. I can't set it for lower than that, so I have to use this guy to get that lower temperature. And this guy is currently reading 55 degrees. Yeah, it's the same temperature. With a start temperature of 57. So it is too cold, which is why the heater's on. So the temperature sensor here recognizes, hey, we need to heat this tank up because we want it to be 57 degrees, or whatever I just showed you. Obviously that'll be much lower in the wintertime, but we're testing. So what I have seen with this 300 watt heater is that when this tank gets down to 52 degrees and we have a 34 degree night, that 300 watts can still raise it to like 84 degrees or something just overnight. On I think it was a 50-degree night, I was able to maintain the tank at the max temperature here, 94 degrees. And that means that a 300-watt heater with insulation on here should be able to keep me above freezing as long as I'm more than minus 10 or something like that. So there's a lot of failure points here. But it's easier than what I was doing, and chickens are already easy. But sometimes it's nice to make it easier. These are pretty cheap parts. I'm not going to recommend any of these because I haven't tested them, but I will put a link to the Bayite thing because I think it's great. And if I was a little spendier, I would have just used another one for this. And you might figure out something else. But the trick here is to circulate the water, monitor the temperature of it, because that will tell you the coldest point on your watering system, which will tell you whether you need to make your water warmer or not. I think it accounts for everything. Let me know what you think.